Hello, my name is Chandler Quayle, and I'm going to be discussing the Kaaba, which is one of the fundamental structures in Islam and is also known as one of their holiest sites. It's very important, and you'll see why later. So, looking at the Kaaba, it's important to understand its larger location, which is near Medina, but specifically is in the city of Mecca, Saudi Arabia, which is where the Kaaba has resided since Muhammad had it moved there in what was one of the last acts of his life. Now, around the Kaaba has grown what is known as the Great Mosque of Mecca and is where the Muslim pilgrimagers go for the Hajj, which is one of the five fundamental pillars that all Muslims must abide by as part of their faith. Now, the Kaaba itself is the black box in the interior, but this black is actually because of the uh, miswa, which is the black cloth covering. However, this covers the white and red sandstone structure that is the original structure that is technically known as the Kaaba. However, it is not often that the Kaaba goes without its covering, as this is part of its traditionalist nature, as well as part of the fundamental pillar of Islam that goes with the Hajj is having this covering on it. Now, we've talked a lot about the pilgrimage, and this is actually fundamental to the Islamic faith, as is one of the five pillars that goes along with prayer, fasting, um, the recognition of one God, as well as the what Christians know as tithing, or as the general public will know as charitable giving. This is one of the fundamental pillars, and it's an important reason of the faith. And it annually attracts almost 2.5 million visitors to Saudi Arabia and Mecca specifically. Now, if we look at this photo, we actually see pilgrimage to Mecca in Saudi Arabia, and the Hajj is part of step one, which is known as the lesser pilgrimage, as this is the beginning of what will be a 5-day long event that circumvents all of Islam and the religious tradition, as well as shows different historical aspects of Muhammad's life, and specifically things that have really helped shape the religion throughout time and history. Now, looking at context, it's important to understand that the Kaaba has undergone three distinct stages during its tenure in creation. The first of its tenure is pre-Islam, where it was used as a pagan spiritual temple. Now, this means that it worshipped what is known as polytheism with multiple deities in the Upper Arabia, Lower Levant region. This means northern Saudi Arabia, southern Syria, as well as up into northern Syria and Lebanon. And this area is known as the Levant in northern Arabia. And this is because there were multiple tribes that spanned this region that helped to give the Kaaba its religious meaning. Now, this religious meaning, much like the Greeks and Romans of before, had different gods for different aspects of things, and their idols resided inside the Kaaba, which itself is a mini sanctuary. You can't see because of the miswa. However, the doors are covered, but it does have an interior where the idols were kept. Now, under Muhammad, it fell into disarray, and Muhammad restored it before, in his last act, moving it to where it currently resides. And in its current condition, and where the symbolism comes in, it became a larger part of the uh, Islamic tradition and is now a part of the Hajj. Now, if we look at the symbolism, this is covered by the Kiswa, which is with Arabic calligraphy, which details specific events in the Quran, as well as stories of Muhammad's life that may not have been included in the Quran, but are part of the chronicles of Muhammad's life. Now, this represents power and authority because it radiates a certain influence due to its gold stature, as well as being updated every year. It is one of the largest undertakings of the Mecca, and it represents Muhammad's influence on the divine hand, as well as representing one of the earliest and holiest sites of Islam. The Kaaba has managed to do it all. Now, the function of the Kaaba is actually to be one of the centers of the Great Mosque that's there, and it's one of the first parts of the journey after entering the mosque and crossing between the two hills. It's also the center of the Masjid al-Haram, which is known as the Grand Mosque of Mecca, and it is where Muhammad found the Kaaba should reside in its final place of resting after uniting the Arabic tribes around the idea of Islam, and all parties involved lifting it up into the current location where it would then become a steadfast pillar of Islam and actually be built into the religion, with the Quran having very specific details of its origin, which are different than the actual historical aspects. However, they rely on the spiritual teachings that Abraham, one of the fundamental prophets of Islam, helped build it. It's very, very religious, as we can see, and is the center of Islamic tradition, and is up there with the mosque itself, as well as the mosque in Jerusalem. Now, as we approach the end of the presentation here, it's important to reflect on the Kaaba and truly understand all the things about it. It is not just a 13 by 11 by 12 cubic structure that is part of the Hajj. Rather, it's the culmination of Islam. It represents the uniting of the tribes of Arabia and the lower Levant, as well as the spiritual teachings in the Quran and the continued guidance that it provides to all Muslim worshippers around the globe, being a beacon during Sarah, which is the annual prayers. People turn towards Mecca and specifically the Kaaba, as this has become the fundamental pillar of Islam. Thank you so much for listening.